All right, this is another debunk on Home Team History and what they stand for, or what this guy stands for. I just want to mention I find it odd that he calls it Home Team History because he's in America and talking to black Americans, and so it has nothing to do with Home Team. Many people would say the Home Team of America was Indians, or the actual real Home Team of America, of course, is Caucasians that founded it and everything, and that wouldn't have anything to do with blacks. So home team history, well, that's about Africa. He talks a lot about Africa, so that's their home team there, but they won't go home. This is the year of return, and they still won't do it. But home team history indicates that he's home somehow or something. And actually, like baseball, this would be more of the away team history, not the home team history. Home team history would be when you're playing a home game. Away is whenever you're not where you're from and playing a game. So let's go into what he says here, because this debunks the last part, and he shows a retraction of how he lied about the ancient Ethiopians, and then he's going to try to twist it around with the truth of the matter and somehow end up at the end of it still lying. Watch carefully. This time he shows a sad black person right there, and very admixed.
What up, y'all? It's your boy Home Team here. I'm back at it with another video of African history, culture,
What up, what up, what up?
and worldview. And today, before I get into my topic, I want to give a shout out to Cool2T. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He pointed out in my last video I made a mistake, and the image I used was actually an incorrect image in the context of what I was saying.
Actually, most of them were, but he's going to at least admit to one of them openly. Let's go with that.
Now, in this image, Andromeda is actually in the far right, and she's portrayed with lighter skin, and the guy in the middle is Perseus protecting her from the sea monster. And I appreciate you, Cool2T, for pointing that out to me. But at the same time, my point still stands.
No, it doesn't still stand, because you tried to say that a black figure was Andromeda and that she's Ethiopian, and that meant Negroid, and that they're always Sub Saharan Africans, and none of that's reality or truth. For this pale white woman here is an Ethiopian. How does that work out? She's got a side lock and long hair, long hair. How does that work out? And Perseus, goes with the Persians, and those people call themselves Aryans. And that everybody has this ancient story about killing the sea god Yam and all these things, or Leviathan, and this all goes with a common Caucasian religion that blacks aren't a part of in any way, but they keep trying to say that they are part of it. It's disgusting. Now let's see how he lied, and then we'll show you the truth.
You see, the Greeks were not overly obsessed with skin tone as we are today.
That's the most bullshit statement I've heard from him this video, where even Herodotus himself is going around and comparing Caucasians to Caucasians, and he describes them being darker skinned or lighter skinned. And no, none of those were Negroids. He's just talking about farmers and people that are having to be out in the sun a lot, and that Mediterranean look versus their look. And blacks try to equate it to themselves. Anything darker than a sheet of paper must be a Negro. And that's a sad lie also. But let's continue.
And skin tone to them, or color, or sometimes the skin tone was portrayed in a symbolic nature.
Noticed how he cut that into two pieces and couldn't even say one sentence without having a separation in it, because he's trying to get out this concept. Now he's revealing the truth, that whenever Caucasians use colors in art, that it's actually symbolic, and it means certain things, and it never meets a Negro, and he's fixing to tell you that. And so when we look at red ochre males and pale women in Egypt, and then we look around for other ones, and all we can find are the ones like the Greeks that have the same coloration, and or black people sometimes, and red and black art that they drew that way and fired, and it shows that way. But does that mean they were Negroids? No, no. But black people try to say it. Ooh, look, here's a vase for the black man. So I was ism wheeze. And it's disgusting. But he's fixing to tell you the truth of that I ism wasn't wheeze, and that there is no I ism wasn't wheeze. But yet, at the very end of it, he tries to say, see, Sub-Saharan. And he tries to call this lady, this pale lady here, Sub-Saharan. And it's past disgusting. But watch him reveal it.
As we can see, Perseus is a Greek, but he's portrayed with black skin or as a black image. And Andromeda is portrayed with light skin. You see, the Greeks saw the world in darkness and light, and they portrayed that through their art. And so Perseus was more so viewed as a guy saving her, and he himself was in danger. So that would be more portrayed as a darker image.
Are in red ochre, where symbolically the male is out having to do things and work and farm, and so he ends up a redneck, whereas they keep the women pale and they stay pale. And here that man in a darkened image goes to go pale. Well, why didn't they do him in red? Well, because her dress, that tongue, a couple of other things are red, and they use colors any way they want to. It has nothing to do with Negroids, and he's going to explain that he lied. And then he's going to try to say that he's still telling the truth. Let's go.
And Andromeda, in all her pureness and in her light, might have been portrayed as a lighter image. But we all know she was an Ethiopian.
No Negro. And now's where we go into the... Oh, stick that tongue out. Now we go to where we, again, look at what the Greeks, these people that made that vase, they made up that word too, and they used it to describe people. Let's look at what that description is and where those people are. I simply go to Wikipedia and I look at Ethiopian. Let me take this back open so you can see. I went to Ethiopia right here of the Greeks, and so it's not Ethiopia, it's Aethiopia. That's the way they pronounced it. That's the way they spelt it. That's the way its origin was. So Ethiopia of the Greeks. Now, you can go to the one that's about Ethiopia, the country and the flag and everything, but that isn't about ancient times and what these people said, for that country is called Abyssinia until just recently, and they have nothing to do. But black people try to say Ethiopian so wheeze, and it's like, no, those people are 40 to 50% Caucasian anyhow. But in elder times, if you just look up the simple description of Caucasian race, it'll show you North Africa, Egypt, and the Horn of Africa. Yeah, it's the definition of Caucasian race, not of weism Negroids. And so it's pathetic for them to try it. Now, a simple look at this picture that I've shown many times. This picture actually shows all the areas in brown where these Ethiopians were. And amazingly, the Egyptians are called the Ethiopians right in through this run. Well, what is that? Hugging right on the Nile, what is that? That's the farmland. Okay, well, they drew it weird, and Sub-Saharan Africa doesn't even exist on the map, by the way. Oh, yeah, they didn't even know it. The desert goes into the abyss, blah, blah, blah. But who's up in the horn? Well, that's Macrobians. And they're described as tall, Caucasian people, and they live long lives and all this stuff about them. So there's your Horners right there, and they're not Negroes. Isn't that amazing? But let's go with more interesting effect that these Ethiopian, which he tries to claim are Sub-Saharan Negroids somehow, and he will say that again in just a minute, showing you how he's a despicable, disgusting liar. For all you have to do is easily just wiki it, and all this information comes up. But blacks don't want to wiki it or anything. They want to make it up. And he got caught making it up. And only one little facet, but I destroyed the whole thing in the last video. But we're continuing here. Meroe is named after Persian Cambyses' sister. Cambyses, Persian and Aryan, from over here. Yeah, and that's where they get the name Meroe or Meroe that you pronounce. Interestingly, they show the Nile bends real hard, and it doesn't do this. It does a wiggle and keeps going, and we know that Stanley and Livingston, Dr. Livingston, I presume, found the source of the Nile, but back then they didn't even have any idea, and they thought the Nile came from the Atlas Mountains through the Sahara Desert, believe it or not, around and back through there. And they had known of ancient times of there being waterways that went all the way through there, so they thought this was still in effect somehow. Yeah, and they talk about the Atlas Mountains, and other pictures like this show Atlantis right here, which makes sense. Atlas Mountains, Atlantis. Here's Tartessus, or Tartaria, or, well, we think of Tartaria as being way up here, but that was Tartarus and things. But look through the river valleys where all the rivers meet, and how it seems to go exactly with that. And that's river farming communities. And if you want to point out the fact that they're not black, the Caucasus Mountains have those in them too. Well, what is this? This is farmers. This is rednecks. See, that red ochre symbology goes good with that. But what it doesn't go good with is Negroids, because it wasn't even part of anything having to do with them. But they always want to claim it. Yeah, they really, really want to claim some Caucasian history and the religion of the Bible. And it's past disgusting. So now we know that he is lying about Ethiopians and what it has to do. For it tells you here that the Iliad and the Odyssey, they talk about them and where they are, and they aren't up here in that area. And this easily discounts anything blacks would try to say about what Ethiopia meant or what it had to do with, right? So we're just going to go back here to his lie and watch him try to connect it to Sub Saharan Negroids here. Real quick, he's going to do that. Knowing that he's talking about a pale white woman, he's going to try to tell you that. Watch this.
And like I said many times, Ethiopians to the Greeks were Sub-Saharan Africans.
You see that he tried to do that. And that's just pitiful. There's no way you could make that connection and off that art and the woman's hair, skin, and everything. But he did tell you that black symbology in art, like Madonna and all of the fertility statues and things like that, going with rebirth and using a black symbology for that, and being in sorrow, like the Mother Mary is shown at the Vatican, and they hop up and down and say, she's a Negro, and the Pope kisses a Negro, and it's like, no, if you look, she's a Caucasian Aquiline. I can make a statue out of bronze, by the way, and it'll turn black, but I didn't turn into a Negro. She didn't magically turn into a Negro. It's not from Negroes at all. It is the mourning of the death of her own child and so on. You don't think that you can see that today? Don't we still wear blacks in funerals and stuff? And don't we also still use black for judgment? They try to put themselves in the Bible. After being totally debunked, they try to pull out the stupid phrase where Simon was called Niger, and then therefore Niger, oh, add one more G, and there, see, we're black people. And it's like, no, Niger does mean black, but a black robe does not signify that he's a Negro all of a sudden, and Negroes aren't part of the Bible in any way, shape, or form. Though they try to be part of the Bible is all about Caucasians. India has their own religion, and everywhere has their own religion, because blacks had the voodoo thing and were very primitive, and now they were raised up by Islamics or Jewish slave masters. They've adopted Islam, or they've adopted the Jewish slave master's Bible. But only the American Negroids try to turn around and say it was about us, whenever it isn't about you whatsoever. They want everything to be about them, but it seems that none of it is. Yes, so he just tried to say the pale woman, who does not come from sub-Saharan Africa in any way, was somehow a sub-Saharan Negro. He tried that.
We can apply this logic to Memnon as well. Memnon is sometimes portrayed with lighter skin, and it...
Oh snap. So whenever they try to tell you Memnon is a Negroid because he was shown dark in art from his thing or anything else, this shows the reality of it. See this picture here? You would say this picture looks like Jesus getting taken to heaven by an angel. Doesn't it look like Jesus? And doesn't that look like an angel? But hold on. Oh, damn, this is actually Greek art and stuff. What? Yeah, yeah. And around the circle circumference are those swirl patterns intermixed, which can make a swastika symbol or a maze, like a labyrinth. But also, in between every single one of those, there are plus marks and crosses, and plus marks and crosses. T's and X's, if you will, but that's a cross and that's an X. And it's a symbology that all these Caucasian people had, and crosses and so on, and it doesn't have anything to do with blacks. But now he's admittedly shown that he lied about Ethiopians whatsoever, and he lied about this one art, and then he shows another art and he goes, yeah, I lied about all that too, but he still tries to claim they're Sub Saharan Negroids. How pathetic.
This image where he's dying, he is perceived as being pure or being sent to above to be immortalized by Zeus.
So going to heaven and everything, and that was of course also part of the Caucasian religion. It doesn't have anything to do with Negroids whatsoever, but now they want to get to heaven so bad they feel like coveting, lying, bearing false witness, and then they think that they might get there. And it's like, wow, that's disgusting. You haven't read that book, have you?
And in another image of Memnon, we see him in a dark image in battle again.
And in that battle, everyone is dark, for it's just an art that actually shows that they have three colors going on. They have ability to do this paint that shows this art. And so both of these people are supposed to be Negroids somehow. So this is darkened men and pale women, but they have facial hair. One of them's a redhead. Yeah, that's pretty important to the factor of it, but one of them's a redhead. Also, there's pale women there and pale women there, but get those out of shot so you can try to say it's a Negro. Let's see what he says.
It's Achilles, and we all know Achilles was a Greek, yet he's portrayed as a black image or with having black skin, the same as...
Not black skin, it's just literally a symbology, and actually they're using three colors. Yeah, so you choose the background as one color, and then you have two other colors to make a contrast with, and that's all that it really is. But blacks want to put themselves in things. Hey, interestingly, Achilles was said to be Xanthos. What's Xanthos? That's blonde-haired. That's fair and blonde-haired. So we can see that we known Greeks, fair and blonde-haired, trying to claim those as Negroids too is a pathetic lie, just as much as it is Memnon going off of Ethiopia and the actual rule of the people that are making this judge that made the definition of the word. And they define it, not Negroids that want to put themselves into things. So you can see the encompassing, disgusting lie that they try to pull, and he is still bald-faced, staring you in the eye, trying to tell you, yeah, though, those light people, those are Sub-Saharan Negroids, all the way they're talking about in Greece. Remember in the last video, he said that they were in love with black people. Whenever you find out the truth, that they were very enamored with all these Caucasians. And it doesn't have anything to do with Negroids.
It's Memnon. So like I say, these images were sometimes compared to darkness and light. Darkness would reveal dramatic scenes, and lightness would reveal pure scenes. So we got to keep that in mind. But thank you so much, Cool 2T, for pointing that out. And I hope you continue to watch my videos and point out some more stuff. This is actually the point of my whole channel, is to discuss and learn and grow. So
No, you're expected to already know. Black people are going, you know, and you told me. So now you had people, if they don't see this retraction here, they're going to try to say that Ethiopia is about us, we's, and West African primitives didn't know Ethiopia existed in any of its forms. They didn't know the world existed, and now they go around gripping and lying about crap, and it's disgusting. And I wish there was a lot worse word to say disgusting, because today we use adjectives so much that maybe that loses its strength. But it is truly blasphemous and disgusting, and he shows that he's been caught. And the fact that he was caught in a lie, he did still sneak in there and say, yeah, they're pale, and I showed you the symbology, and it doesn't have anything to do with black. But he actually said that it meant Sub-Saharan Negroids, and it doesn't in any way. Now, this video that I'm on, the retraction is just the first part. The second part of the video is them trying to claim that East Africans have a connection to West Africans. And it's a lame connection here. He tries real hard. And he goes off hearsay of black people. Imagine that if you went off hearsay of black people in America, they were the Bible, they were Egyptians, and so on. So you can see that you probably couldn't trust any of that and what they say. And I'm going to go into that video next, probably attach it after it, and just keep destroying this bullshit that he keeps putting out and trying to pass off to black people as truth somehow.
Appreciate that. But this goes into a larger theme of what I want to talk about. Many times I hear people asking me, yo, why you always stuck on East Africa? Why don't you talk about, more West African civilizations? And
the reason he doesn't is there's nothing much to talk about, and he'd have to show primitives and things like that, and the dependent people, and mass variation from what he tries to show in East Africa, and to try to make a connection between the two. And there isn't one. And the Khoisan aren't related to West African primitives, and the Nilotics aren't either, but he tries to make those connections as we do this next one. I'm going to let him speak one more time probably, and then we're just going to end this one, and then we'll go to the debunk of the second part, where he does try to make connections that he can't ever make.
Why do you always try and connect West Africa with East Africa? Or why do so many African Americans try and connect to East Africa more so than West Africa?
Well, that's because they're jealous and they have an inferiority complex, and they didn't actually do anything. So they want to claim black people did something somewhere, and so they grip at ancient societies. Well, when they do, they realize that the only Negroids that were in Egypt were Nubians and subjected, that they were mooching at the fence and were domesticated by them, and they don't want to be that. So they try to say we was Egyptians. You can easily see that. And then people say no, because the Bible and the Egypt goes together, and that proves it. And Moses even passed as an Egyptian, so you don't have that. So then they go, oh, we was Bibles too. And it's like, no, oh, please stop. You're looking more and more disgusting. This started at disgusting, gripping at Caucasian societies, and you're a West African primitive descendant, and you didn't know East Africa or Egypt existed. But he points it out directly right here, which is hilarious, that yeah, West African primitive descendants don't talk about West African primitives. They talk about everything else. Now, I've got a guy, Sandaida, in my thing, and he's very Negrocentric, Afrocentric / not a liar. It's hard to get that combination together, but what it basically means is he talks up about all the West Africans and their primitive stuff, and he doesn't try to claim Egypt and everything because he knows it's already been debunked, and it's a sad lie. And he gets on my videos. Now, occasionally people jump on him just because he's a black guy coming in with this crap, but lo and behold, then black people get on and we was, and he's on there saying that no, we weren't, but look at the stuff that we did have, and they don't want to look at that. They don't want to look at that. They want a Caucasian history.
Today, I'm going to show you these connections.
No, you're not, because there aren't any real connections, genetically, linguistic, or in any way, shape, or form. Now, he's going to try to tell you there was loan words and things that they got out of trade and so on later that, of course, they didn't have words for because they didn't have words for a lot of things. What's the word for airplane? Moo, moo, moo. Yeah, so, see, they don't have the word for things, so they had to adopt somebody else's word. Quite often in trade, this happened too, where you'll have the whole trade going on and the Phoenicians and all this thing, but they have a certain word for things, and places get this, loan word, as they call it, from trade in situations. And it's something I studied in linguistics, and where did this word come from, and where did this word come from, and hey, that word doesn't even match up with their linguistics whatsoever. Who does? Amazingly, it's these people. Wow, what did that have to do with it? And track these things down. Negroids never go through this endeavor or try in any way, shape, or form. They're literally just trying to lie about, oh, this one is blacks, and this one is blacks. And it shows you the disconnect and the lies that they try to portray to themselves and to the rest of humanity who knows the difference. And if you don't know the difference, hopefully I'm pointing it out for you. So we're going to go on now, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the second part where he tries to connect West African primitives with East African Nilotics that weren't Egyptians in any way, and also say that they were Ethiopians, which we've just talked about Ethiopians, meaning sunburnt face, and these people don't even get sunburnt faces, and how it really talks about rednecks and farmers and people that are sunburnt. Yeah, and they all get sunburnt. Even northern of that where it's brown, yeah, people do get sunburnt. Or they do get tans, and that's all they were talking about. And they were making a difference of it because nobility isn't really tanned and they don't have to do the work. These people are farmers. It's almost as simple as that. Like barbarian has to do with beards and not knowing the Greek language. Not that they were ugh like Conan the Barbarian or anything on that matter. Anyhow, guys, like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Click on this. Put a comment down below where you giggle about how this guy debunks himself but then lies straightforward and tries to say Sub-Saharans are Caucasian people with Caucasian hair. Ha ha ha. He explains the old symbology and then he still tries to claim it. Like, share, and subscribe, though, guys, and peace. And go in the top left-hand corner, and now we're going to go on to where he tries to connect West African primitives to East African Nilotics, say they was Egyptians, say they was Ethiopians, whenever the definition is right in front of you. Peace.